It is the 16th of April of 2023, and this is an AGL intro on the topic of behavioral anchoring, building systems as a tool for liberation. And I would like to start the way I usually start, which is I would love to hear from people what is bringing you here. And I am prioritizing, in this case, people that I have not met before, for whom this is your first experience of being in some event with me, especially if this is your first experience and you've just seen me do the unprofessional thing. What brought you here? And I'm not looking for answers of like, oh, I've heard about you for a long time and this is my first opportunity. I want to know, what is your link to the topic? What interests you about the topic in particular? So, welcome. Please step forward if you've not been here before and can share something about what brought you here. Wow, there's someone here who almost counts as hasn't been here before, although we used to have a lot of contact, and that's Eileen.
Hi, nice to see your face and nice to be here. Well, I'm here with the principal of the school that I work at, and we're at he's right down there, DM Cloaker.
Hello.
We are an elementary school in Oakland, and our family and student body is really changing over the last few years, and we're having a lot of struggles around gender inclusivity and racial aggression, well, microaggression that feels aggressive. And so we're looking to create new norms for ourselves. And we thought the behavioral anchoring might be a way to think about that. So I'm excited.
Thank you. What dense challenge. I don't know that we will be able to get into the specifics of your situation, but I'm hoping that the things that we will look at as general principles of how to anchor things might help you. Welcome. Anyone else who's here for the first time? If not, I will happily hear from a couple of people who are here, have been here before. What's bringing you to this topic today? It helps me orient when I know what people are coming with. Yeah, Delane.
Thank you. So I love the vision mobilization ideation as far as the vision and the purpose and theory of change. And I seem to falter a little when I think about behavioral agreements and behavioral anchors, especially with other people. So I'm I'm really wanting to learn more about how they relate and how to.
Thank you. Anyone else? What's bringing you here? What are you hoping to learn today?
I'll speak up. I'm Mary, and I'm in responding to the call of our times, and I've not been able to be present for all sessions. I've listened to many after the fact, and I wanted to pick up today because the time zone worked and I can be present and I can learn more. So I'm still trying to get on board in the flow.
Got it. Thank you. Rachel. And I think then I will get started.
So I am here for a specific reason, although I think I will be able to apply this many places. My teenage daughter is struggling tremendously with what a lot of teenagers are struggling with, which is not fitting in, and not the narrative that she doesn't fit in, and a lot of comparison and competition, which I think is I think she's been poisoned by capitalism and consumerism, and sometimes she agrees with me and sometimes she doesn't. And when she does agree with me and wants support, I think having some real concrete behavioral anchors, some things that she can do in that moment of, oh my God, I'm the worst person and I'm other and I don't belong and everybody has everything and I don't. Yeah, so that's my very concrete hope.
Great. We have a big range, and I want to get started now with the presentation. So let me tell you how it works for those who have not been here before. I don't like to lecture, and I do like to have a line, an arc that carries me from start to end of what I want to present. So what I do for integration is I go back and forth between having slides that I present from and then coming back and being in dialogue. And that seems to work really well for me, and gradually over time for more and more people. Initially, people don't participate, but by the third or fourth slide, they get it and start participating, and then it's fun and interactive, which is how I love it. So I'm going to do this back and forth, and I will start now. Okay, you're able to see the screen. I'm always amazed at the joys of what Zoom can do for us. So when I say behavioral anchoring, what I mean by this is taking the ideas, the principles, and all the things that we will get to in a moment, and bringing them to the level of actual behavior, actual action. Who does what on Monday morning, Tuesday evening, in this room, in that city? What is the actual action? Not just intention, but action. And to just kind of do a tiny sneak preview, I have found, in relation to your daughter, Rachel, because you're on my screen and I'm seeing you, I have found that I can when I am not at my best, I can more easily follow a decision that I made at my best, just follow it, then sort things out in that moment and figure out what to do. So the more I have pathways that support me to align with how I want to be, the more likely I am to be able to do that. And that is at the individual and the organizational level, at all levels. Now, why do I call it at building systems, which is all the behavioral anchoring in the end is systems, and we'll get to 5 different systems in the course of this. Why do I call it a tool for liberation? Is because in the absence of grooving conscious pathways of how we want to function, we will default to the ones that are implicitly available within the culture, within wherever it is, which isn't necessarily how we want to function. If it is, then just fine. Then we are fully liberated because we're doing it exactly as it feels right to us. But if it isn't, that gap, we need to fill it with specific actions. So that is what the overall scope is. And I, like those who've been here before, get the drift already. I start with vision always. Then I go to present reality, because the content of each of these is intended to fill the gap between the present reality and the vision. Without vision, it's very hard for us to know where we want to go. So this is my vision, one of a million ways of looking at vision. It's like specific strands that I pull from the vision of how things could be that are relevant to today's topic. Oops. I don't know how this happened. So the first one is that we have systemic thinking, and it's integrated with linear thinking. The whole and the lines, all of them are integrated. We function in an integrated way. That's one piece. Care for the whole is available to us within. We don't have to make an effort. We don't have to have anybody remind us that care for the whole is an option. To this day, as individualized as we have become, as constantly low-grade activation of fight, flight, freeze we are, the care for the whole is still possible. And how I know this? When I am with people, working with people, and I ask them a simple question: what is a solution to whatever the problem is that is going to work for everyone? They are able to do it. The capacity to think in this way is available to us. It's atrophied, but it's there. So in the vision, it's available organically, doesn't need a reminder. And we don't have to exit togetherness in order to have choice. Right now, in this current time, because of separation, we have choice or togetherness. This is one of the things I think, because you're still on my screen, I have only 3 people on my screen. I see you, Rachel, so I'm thinking about your daughter. She is struggling with fitting in or being me. Togetherness or choice. And if you're not extremely strong, you will want to give up choice in order to have some sense of togetherness and belonging. And then it's unbearable. So then you run away and escape from that in order to have corners of choice that you can be somewhere. And so it's completely in separation. Think about this, that choice can happen within togetherness. It's a concept that is hard for people to grasp because it always seems that in order to be in togetherness, we have to give up choice. And then all the life-aligned principles, integration, willingness, transparency, and others that will come throughout this 3-hour period, they are the ones that guide action. Again, organically. And feedback, which is the primary mechanism of learning, happens all the time. It's integral. You don't need to go, okay, let's go have feedback. It just happens. We tell each other what's working and what's not working. This is the vision. Just take a moment to imagine how sweet that would be if we all function this way. I'm going to move to present reality, which is far less fun. I call it the patriarchal trance. Trance meaning it's very hard for us to even be conscious that it happens because it feels normal. We are conditioned into scarcity, separation, and powerlessness. Everything has a groove that is within that. Even what we like, what we are attracted to, what we desire, what feels good, what feels right, all of this is within these grooves, and we don't have access to vision. That's how most of us live at this time. And what that means is that we will end up either continuing with what's internalized, or we rebel, or we disconnect and give up. We don't have a way to organically live within this. And this is so strong that it happens all the time, even to people who want the vision, lose it. My favorite example is, I would imagine that everyone on this call and almost everywhere that I go is all in favor of restorative justice. Everybody's in favor of restorative justice until someone does something that really impacts them, like seriously impacts them, and then they walk away from that person. But walking away from a person who did something you don't like It's not restorative justice. It's completely retributive justice. You did this. You don't deserve trust. I'm walking away. Why? Not because I think this is the right way to be. I don't even think about it. It's just available. It's there, so I follow it. All right. Now let's chat for a bit. Comments, questions, anything that comes up as you look at this. See, this is what I mean. At the beginning, people are like, I don't know what to say. And I want,
Nikki,
yeah. Camila.
hi. I'm going to turn on my camera. So I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi everyone. So glad to see you, Nikki.
Are you calling from Colombia?
Yes. Yes. When I hear you talk about choice in this tension with togetherness, I wonder if you are talking also around authenticity, because you are also choosing when you decide to move towards togetherness. So you are exercising your choice. So
Yes.
I don't know if you are saying it's like you are sacrificing authenticity for moving towards what the others
I
want.
think that's a lot of what people do a lot of the time. We are trained to do it. We are trained from the moment as little ones, we're constantly told, no, don't do this, don't do that, do this instead, say thank you, don't do that. All of these things, the message behind them is, if I don't do what others want me to do, then I don't belong. It's very hard to find choice within that, except away from it. That's what I mean. Does that clarify? No.
Yes, and how, when you said that it's possible to do both, how that would it look like?
Basically, that I choose with others by holding together with others all the relevant needs and information and resources and impacts that are in the context, and deciding together what is going to happen. That's what it looks like. I live it. We live it. There are three of us that are in a very tight-knit community experiment, and that is what we do. That is how we live. And there are various other people who live it to various degrees. I'm looking now at Fox and Martha. Would you say that you're also living this, or at least aiming to live it, and have good islands where you absolutely feel it?
Attempting it every day.
Something every day. I missed the first word.
Attempting.
Yeah. And sometimes succeeding. Come on. Make the good advertisement. No, seriously. Seriously, I think the real question is, do you have moments where you actually experience that sense of choice within togetherness already? Or you're still on the way?
Yeah. And it's more every day. Like it's
Yeah.
it's an upward trajectory.
Thank you.
Could you give an example?
No, because I actually don't want to get into a whole lot of detail about this, because it's getting more deeply into the vision and we won't get through the entire trajectory of the anchoring. It's a very hard one for people to grasp until you actually feel it. So even telling you stories, it's going to be too much. If we somehow finish in time, let's come back to it in the end. Okay.
Perfect. I'll hold that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Melissa.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Can you tell me what you mean by separation?
By what?
Separation. What is separation?
You don't know?
It's well, I need to know what you mean by it. How would you define separation? Is it
I
like us?
don't. I don't define it. I have complete faith that we all know. Maybe
What-
we have different versions of it, but I find it hard to believe that anyone doesn't know what separation is.
Then you don't believe me. So is it us versus them? Is that what separation is? Like,
That's one of the manifestations of it. It's not seeing that my needs and your needs can both be attended to. It has a million manifestations.
okay, so it's the opposite of oneness kind of thing, or
Sure.
yeah, sure.
I have never tried to define it. I don't generally feel inspired by definitions.
Yeah, I just want to grasp what you mean when you say separation.
It's not, it's the opposite of togetherness. It's the best that I can say, that not feeling like we are together or part of something.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to go back and continue with the question of why we need behavioral anchoring. And some of it I already spoke of before. Remember the patriarchal trance of how we function? Anything that we don't anchor will reproduce the patriarchal trance whenever we're not at our best. And that is, the reason is that the pull of the patriarchal trance is so deep, it's so cellular, and our intentions are not at the same level. So they're not cellular. They are at a much higher level. So if just having intentions isn't enough to pull against the patriarchal trance. And one of the things that you can see where that happens is people come together and say, oh, we have this great vision and we have shared values, everything's going to work out. And then, poof, immediately, somebody is, okay, I found it. Somebody wasn't unmuted. Immediately, sooner or later, they get into conflict because they didn't really check to see, are they actually able to function in togetherness? Or do they have divergences that they are not aware of because of this idea that they have shared vision and values? When we do behavioral anchoring, it exposes this and easier to make decisions. And here's an example, which some of you have heard from me. It's my favorite example. The kibbutz movement in Israel, which has all kinds of problems and it also is an idealistic or was an idealistic movement, had a variety of ideals. One of them they called economic equality. They anchored it in institutions, in specific agreements, and it survived for decades. And it took pretty major things to break down that. One of the major things was reparations from Germany that came into the kibbutz movement. And the reparations were for individuals and created a major problem that could not have been anticipated. Because if you keep it with the individuals, you end up losing the economic equality. And if you don't keep it with the individuals, the sense of reparation is diluted. That was one. The second one was the introduction of TV, which happened in Israel in 1968 and brought the entire world of enticing capitalism into Israel and was part of what I believe unraveled it. But that still was like a good 50, 60 years. Sexual equality They talked about it, but they never anchored it. So the moment that children came, it was all gone. Instantly, it no longer held. So that is an example of where if you don't anchor things, you end up reproducing the patriarchal trends. So I'm going to pause here and invite questions, and then we will start looking at what does anchoring means. What does anchoring mean? Any questions? Are there examples? Do you have examples of your own that help you understand why anchoring at a level of action might be necessary? Yes, Pam.
Mickey, would you be willing to ask if everyone is clear on what you mean by anchoring behavior? Because I'm still not clear.
Okay, so let me give an example. I'm going to use the example. No, let me think for a moment. What would be the best example? I'm confused because I thought I gave the example in the kibbutz movement, and what wasn't clear about that?
So they anchored the
The
economic.
The ideal of economic equality was anchored all the way to the level of how it was decided who was going to do which piece of the work, how much money or not money people were going to receive, how food was going to be distributed. All of these things were done at the level, at a very specific level. It wasn't just an idea of economic equality, it had shape.
Okay, let me see if I've got this, because I'm surprisingly confused. So you're saying that in order to anchor, you're not really anchoring the behavior, you're anchoring the vision.
Yes, you're anchoring the vision in behavior.
In behavior, you're anchoring the vision in behavior. And that can happen by, like you said, agreements that are made, followed through. Okay, thank you. That's helpful. We're anchoring, we don't just have vision, we're anchoring the vision in behavior in actions that we take, but not only actions that we take, but commitments to the act, to take those actions, to take the specific actions, not commitment to the vision, but commitment to the actions that are in service of the vision. Is that right?
Let me just nuance it a little bit. We'll get to it later, but I'm going to say it now. If I need energy, mobilization, commitment, force in order to keep an agreement, then the agreement is not within capacity. And now I'm no longer going to talk about the kibbutz movement. I'm going to talk in general. It's one of the big errors that are made everywhere is creating agreements, behavioral anchors, whatever you want to call it, that are aspirational and not within capacity. And if it's aspirational and not within capacity, that is still an intention and not an actual capacity-based agreement that you're going to do. Does that help?
Yes. So I could say that we have a vision in our family that everybody's needs matter and that we all behave as though everybody's needs matter. And how that looks is how we act that out through our practice of asking one another about, for help with certain things, or and the way we respond to requests and stuff like that. Those are behavioral anchors.
Yes, and that's the great thing is it within capacity? So for example, if the agreement is every time we say something, we ask the other person if it works for them, that's outside capacity. It
Yeah.
isn't within capacity to do this just because it's a great idea.
Yeah.
90% of the time you will actually forget.
Yeah. But it isn't, it is within capacity for me to, when I want the dishes emptied in the morning, but by the time I get up in the morning, and I ask Joseph that my ask is really a request and not a demand. Like that, it used to be a demand a lot of the time, and now it's really a request, and we both understand that.
So that's integrated. That's not behavioral. So let me give you an example of, let's take this example and work it out. Let's say that you want the dishes done by a certain time. And did you say the name was Joseph?
Yes.
Joseph forgets.
Mhm.
So clearly it's not within capacity for Joseph to do it by a certain time
Mhm.
without being reminded.
Mhm.
And in the old world, in the world of fairness, in the world of separation, you shouldn't have to remind him.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
If it's within capacity for you to remind him before you go to bed, Joseph, please do the dishes, whatever it is,
Mhm.
then he's able to remember, because his lack of capacity is tracking. This may not be exactly.
This is exactly true. No, this is exactly true.
Okay, even better. So he has complete willingness to do this, but he doesn't track it.
Exactly.
If you can remind him to do it, he will do it. If that's within capacity, then you solve the problem. If it isn't within capacity for you to remind him because you have too much resentment of decades of a marriage in which blah, 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 then you cannot be the one to remind him. Then you look for a strategy for how he will be reminded, because changing him so that he will be a person who tracks is outside capacity.
Right. So now how is this behavioral anchoring?
Because it's anchored in specific actions. So for example, maybe you have a child that lives with you, and that child is like looking for ways that are meaningful and significant to contribute to these idiot parents that are fighting all the time over
No,
stupid
Joseph
things
is
like
actually the
this.
son. Just so
Okay,
you know.
never mind. Let me run with my example.
Okay, go.
Because if it's the son, that's a whole other thing about expectations of parents and all of that. But let's say it's the husband and the child is looking for a way to contribute to ending this.
Mhm.
Then the child can remind the father and say, Daddy, it's 10 p.m. Do you remember to take the dishes out of the dishwasher because mommy's going to get up in the morning, and you have an agreement and you're done. So then everybody knows what their action is. And it's within capacity.
So
That's absolutely key. The behavior has to be within capacity, or else you didn't solve the problem. So in the school example, for example, if you have something like, I don't know what could be an example. No one uses certain words. That's outside capacity. It is outside capacity. But what can be within capacity, maybe, is any time that there are, let's say, 3 people every day on a rotation whose task is to notice when people use these words and go to them and remind them to go and acknowledge that they said the word and they're still working on integrating it, you have an agreement that is within capacity. that is precisely the beauty of what we're talking about here. Got it now, Pam?
I think I have it enough. And what I want to say is I would be interested, maybe after you've gone a little further, in finding out if there are other people who still are nebulous on.
Oh, people are going to be nebulous for the whole 3 hours. This is completely outside the norm of how things are done. It's going to be a while before anybody can actually integrate it and do something with it. It's
All right,
just,
so let me just try this for a summary. Behavioral anchoring is taking a vision, anchoring it in behavior that is completely within capacity, making sure that it is within capacity, and then making agreements to do it.
yeah,
Okay, I got it.
you got
Thank
it.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Is it Fox or Martha?
It's Fox. I'm just want to share. I'm super celebrating, Pam. You keep going until you got it. Like I really, really like, yeah.
And there are probably like half the people at least are saying, oh, thank you. I'm so glad she's asking this because I wouldn't even know how to ask this.
Mm.
Let's see, raise your hand physically if you're glad Pam asked all these questions because they helped you understand something you didn't understand before. See? All right. Okay. Was that it, Fox? Or did you have something else?
It was examples, and I have a sense now it's fine. I was just,
Okay.
they're there if they're needed.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to go back to the next slide. And the next slide is this image that some of you have seen. That's the image of the vision mobilization. And I think I'm going to cheat. No, I'm not going to cheat. Can you see vision now? Can you see it? Is it visible? Okay. So this starts from vision, and even vision, naming vision is already some form of anchoring something that is otherwise at the level of pure essence, wordless energy. When you're able to give words to your vision beyond the felt sense, you've already anchored it just a little bit because you now have a clear picture of where you're orienting. And then from there, you take it progressively down to bridge the gap between the vision and present reality. And just to say that on the side of values, values bridge the gap. It's one more layer of anchoring. Values bridge the gap between vision and present reality by looking at what are the qualities that are within the vision that the capacity that I have now makes it possible to live, that are important to pull me in the direction of the vision. So they're both within capacity and right on the edge of it so that they will pull me forward. For example, for me, I don't need to have a value of authenticity. Authenticity is baked into my cellular makeup. It's an effort for me not to be authentic. I don't need it as a value. It doesn't add any pull. I do need a value of unconditional receptivity, which I have, because it's hard for me to take in things sometimes. So that helps me pull towards the vision. So for each of us, it will be different based on what the vision is, what our capacity is. And that's on the side of living the vision now. That's the values. Purpose is on the side of bridging the gap at the level that is not within us, but around us, because it's not just us. We can be like super trying to live the vision now, and we'll be limited because we live in capitalist patriarchal societies that are not conducive to human thriving. So what is mine to do is the purpose. Already we're anchoring it, bringing it closer to tangible. And then going from there, we go to, on the side of values, we go to principles and intentions and practices. On the side of purpose, we go to mission and goals, objective tasks. I'll give more details about that, but the picture is at the end, you get to the action agreements, which are the pure behavioral anchors, which are holding the whole thing together and moving us towards vision because they are within capacity. And to summarize it in a different way, there are 3 layers of anchoring. The first is anchoring foundations. This is the vision, values, and purpose. What are the foundational elements that are going to give shape to the way we live? Then we anchor intentions, which are a closer level to action. What are we aiming to do? What does it actually look like a little bit? What are the practices? What are the goals? What are the principles? That's the second layer of anchoring. And the third layer of anchoring is anchoring behaviors, like on the material plane. We've already seen a few examples, and maybe more will come over time. So now going back to communicating with you. More questions or comments? I'm hearing somebody's microphone being open.
Yeah, me.
Yes.
I personally, I found that really difficult to follow because it was impossible to read other than the big words, and I lost you, I'm afraid. Can you a link to that diagram be put up so I can try to follow?
You will get it when we are done with this, in a day or two. But like being able to see. Fox, can you find the link to the Vision Mobilization website?
It's actually in the chat right now, thanks to Nathalie, as well as the learning packet. So both links are there for you to examine more closely. And
okay, thank you. Thank you, Nathalie.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Joy.
Hello, Joy.
Hello. I'm happy to be here. It's my first time attending one of your sessions, so thank you. I wanted to go back actually to celebrate Pam for a second when she asked, I do believe that's her name, when she asked the clarifying questions regarding behavioral anchoring. And it also spurred a question regarding capacity. Like, I didn't feel like I had the capacity to use my voice to ask the questions that Pam did. And so I was grateful when she clarified it. Do you feel like we are capable of our capacity changing with?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the big paradoxes is when we make our agreements aspirational, we are going to be in fight with ourselves all the time. When we make our agreements completely within capacity, the whole energy of internal war that is so common to people that they don't even know they have it, it goes away, and all that energy is available for growing capacity. Does that make sense, Joy?
Very much so. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go back to the next bit, which is, lo and behold, capacity assessment. So capacity assessment includes
Mickey,
Two
that is
sec-
really small. Is it possible you could increase your screen size a little?
I
with
don't
the
know how to do
zoom-
that.
zoom function? You can zoom in and make it look bigger, possibly?
Does anybody know how to do that? If you give me instructions, I will do it.
Is there a green button you can hit at the top left?
A green
That
button.
makes it bigger for me on my screen.
I don't know what to do. Maddie, do you know what I can do? Okay, does anybody know what I can do to make it bigger?
I saw in the green area at the top where it says screen share, to the right of it, you could click on like a arrow or something, and then the drop down showed you different percentages of screen you could show. Oh, it says view options.
And that's for those of us watching Mickey's screen. So all of us can actually make the vision, what we see larger.
Okay, I don't see that I can do anything. So this is, and unfortunately, I don't have the picture, the thing before. Okay, I'm gonna put the words in the chat. And that might help you.
Heather is saying also that each person can increase the screen in their own computer or cell
Yes.
phone.
And I am just going to put the words in there. So the words are there. You see them in the chat?
Yes.
And then you have a pretty picture where the words are not visible, and that's good feedback for the future that we can't pack so much content into one slide. So essentially, when we do capacity assessment, there are strengths and limitations, openings and obstacles. Those are the four things that we're looking at. Strengths and limitations are internal. Openings and obstacles are external. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail because I really want to look at the actual actions and where they are. This is just a journey to get there. You can look at the strengths and openings as possibility that you can celebrate, where you don't really need to do anything. Where you have strengths, it's already integrated. Where you have openings, it's already in flow. You just do it. Yay, we can be aligned with vision here. We don't need effort, we just move. So the behavioral anchoring is most useful and most important around limitations and obstacles, which is where you need to do the anchoring, where you have the limitations and obstacles. Both internally, often limitations and habits and all kinds of things, and externally, the obstacles that the current society and social structures present to us. And one of the things is that you can use the strengths to compensate for the limitations and obstacles and create new possibilities. So that is an important phase, because once you do the capacity assessment, you know what to do next. And I think I'm going to skip two things and go directly to behavior anchors, just so that we have more possibility for getting into things. And this is already in some ways a repetition or a recap, but I will do it. Finding out what is within capacity to do includes these elements. The first thing is the steps have sufficient clarity, sufficient specificity. If there are people here who know NVC, it's at the same level of specificity that you would make observations or requests. I'm not going to get into it. If people don't know NVC, what I said now is not going to be helpful, but for the people who know NVC, it is helpful. You want to make it very specific. It's not listen, it's action. Listening is not an action. Nobody knows what to do when it says listen. But if somebody says, look at the face, write down notes about what you hear, say back what you heard, check for clarity, those are all actions. So that's the level at which you want to do it. So you have clarity about the steps, you have the necessary talents or skills. So for example, somebody who is not tech savvy, you give them all the instructions about how to get to the website, how to do this and how to do that, and they will still not be able to do that because they don't have capacity. There's no overstretching. This is the place where it is so easy to get into being aspirational or having subtle should or have to motivations. And the last thing is, and that is key, if it's not registering as support, if it feels like a rule, it means you haven't actually connected sufficiently at a different level so that you can experience it as support. You know that you want that vision. If you can connect this behavioral anchor, what you're doing now, you're anchoring behavior to support you in going to the vision. If you can maintain that connection, then the agreements that you make will feel like support. If not, they will feel like rules. If they feel like rules, you will never grow capacity. So that's part of what it means to make agreements that are within capacity. They can't feel like rules. All right. I'm going to pause again and ask for questions and comments. This is very dense material. I'm seeing it. It's like a little bit of a kind of like regrooving how we even think about things. So please ask or make comments. If there's any aha, if something fell into place, it might help others. If you have a question, it might help others. Remember how helpful it was when Pam asked the questions.
Mickey, I had an aha moment.
Please.
So us choosing to be here for this, for your workshop, for your session, is that I'm considering that behavioral anchoring to support me as I continue along my particular journey.
I love the example. Thank you. It makes total sense. I can imagine somebody saying, I really want to learn and grow in this direction, and I forget it. So I'm going to sign up every month to come to the NGL intro. I don't care what the topic is. I just know that immersing in this will support me in doing it. And if it means waking up at 2 a.m. because the schedule rolls around, I'm willing to do that because it's that important to me. Or for somebody else, it's like, I'll do it, every 3 months when the time zone works for me, whatever it is. But yes, I see that totally. I'm not trying to make an advertising for coming here. That was not the point, just using Joy's example. Thank you, Joy. I really appreciated that. Anybody
You're
else?
welcome.
Ahas or questions? Yes, Paige.
I think mine is an analogy. I work in the healthcare field, and one of the things I'm really interested in doing is trying to bring, and when you said behavioral anchoring, it hit me. That's what I'm trying to do. And there's that huge gap between person-centered trauma-informed care, which is my space of what I'm trying to bring into nursing homes and healthcare, and the specific actions that staff that at all levels, from administrators to medical providers to CNAs taking care at the resident level at the bedside, what specific actions would they be doing to uphold the trauma-informed care principles of safety and trust and collaboration and all of those things? So the anchoring which I'm seeing some ideas. That's the bridge I'm trying to make.
Yes. Yes. If you tell them safety, collaboration, and they don't have that integrated, they will go, and do the same thing that they always did. But if you tell them, ask 3 times if it's really okay with the person, even if they say okay and it feels good to you, you ask them 3 times, because research, I'm making it up, I don't know, because research shows that if it's a real yes, the person will continue to say yes. And if it's actually not a real yes, by the 3rd time, 85% of the people will finally acknowledge that it was a no. Then you anchored it in a specific behavior, which is totally made up. I don't have any knowledge about this. Don't even think, oh, now we know how to do this. No, you don't. I made it up. Yeah, thank you, Paige. That's really helpful. All right. So next. So now we're going to talk about building systems. Finally, the thing that we came here for. So if the foundations are the vision, values, and purpose, we build systems so that we can give shape to the foundations, and therefore we know how we're going to do things. That's one reason. Second, remember we talked about the patriarchal trance? When we build systems, we like I said before, we build on the strengths to compensate for limitations. To use the example, when I made Joseph the husband and there is an unknown child there, the child has the strength in that imaginary situation. So the child is key to transforming the stuck place between the parents. Third reason why we want to build systems is systems offer systemic solutions to impacts. Instead of individualizing it, we can solve things at the systemic level. So this is related, I think, Paige, to what you're saying. We're not trying to figure it out with each individual that comes. We have a systemic solution, and sometimes it may not specifically fit this or that person, and hopefully the systemic solutions have built in within them flexibility for attending to specific individuals. And the fourth thing is that when we build systems, we move from implicit to explicit agreements. When we move from implicit to explicit, it becomes clearer, it becomes more collaborative, more voluntary, and willingness increases when you know what is going on instead of it being some implicit expectation. And the next thing, okay, no, I think that's enough to come back. Because the content is dense, I want to come back usually after each slide. Yes, Camila.
Yes. So in order to create systems that are based on collaboration and power with, how many people you think, Miki, that needs to make that inner transformation before? Because the question is how we can create different systems if people keep being the same, keep having the same mental structure. So I wonder if we need first to create like a critical mass so we can produce different systems to create systemic solutions.
That's a big question. But when I'm talking about systemic solutions, I'm talking about systemic solutions within the system that we're working with. I'm not talking about global systemic solutions. We're not there. I have created some models, but no one is listening to me. So they can't become operationalized. Do you see what I mean? We can only build systems where we have within our sphere of influence. None of us that I'm aware of have within our sphere of influence the World Bank, for example, unless you have a secret connection to them. And so, but within a team that you're working, within a community that you're part of, you can create systems within a group that where you have the capacity to do that. You can create systems that will be different.
Right. But in order to do that, we need to do inner work so we can reflect different type of different kind of systems. It's not something that you can bring out new systems without you doing your
So the
inner
question of how much inner work is necessary is an open question. For example, convergent facilitation, right? When I go somewhere and do convergent facilitation, which is a tool for collaborative decision-making, if I, the facilitator, hold the vision within me well enough, the people who come to make the decision, they don't need to have consciousness transformation before they come. The process holds them. The minimum requirement for convergent facilitation to work is for people to agree with a really simple principle. If we can work out this problem that we have in a way that works for everyone, it's better than if some of us impose it on others. That's the only thing people need to agree to. It's very low bar.
Right. That's for the people that benefits from the system, but the one who designs the system necessarily had to do a lot of inner work to create something that brings people together.
Yes. So one way, I love this. One way of understanding, I haven't had that thought. One way of understanding the craziness of what I'm trying to do is to find ways where fewer people need to do the shifts and the transformations before we can have significant ripples. I like that way of looking at it. That's why some of us have been thinking fondly about some idea that we call an army of facilitators. Obviously, army in quotes. The idea is that if there are enough people who have the facilitation skills, they can ripple out much more than just one individual, one individual, one individual, one individual, one individual. You cannot heal the entire planet. It's not a possibility. You need to lean on structures that hold people where they are. And yes, the structure builders need to be more aligned with vision than the people within the structures. I totally grant you that.
Right. Just to finish, so that means that the people that are doing their inner work, it's important for us to be committed to have a systemic vision, because we can be the ones who can create or design those systems to transform.
Yes. And this
move
speaks
forward our personal process towards that systemic vision.
This speaks to one of my deep areas of pain, which is how many people do potent inner work and benefit no one else except themselves and the people most close to them. That really, really brings a lot of grief to me, because I want the people who find the liberation to then want to bring it to others. Yeah, thanks, Camila.
Thank you.
Rachel?
Yeah, I think I had an insight that I want to share and get some feedback about. So when you said, or was on the slide, offering systemic solutions to impacts, and I changed it to say repeated impacts. And I was thinking about I just led a mediation for a local spiritual organization. And one of the things that came up was there was a sense that when there is sort of a leader, and when the leader heard a suggestion that she did not like, she interrupted and said that won't work. And the repeated impact was that people stopped offering suggestions, or they stopped offering dissent. People quieted down. And so would a behavioral anchoring that would be a systemic solution here, could it be something like, when the leader hears something that she initially disagrees with, she will see if there's 3 other people that want to give their position, input, opinion before she shares.
That's not systemic, that's individual.
Okay.
That is individual, that is requiring her to become a different person. We cannot, this is so humbling and so intense to recognize we cannot build solutions that require people to become a different person in order for the solution to work. So
Mickey?
Yeah. Are you Joy, are you willing to wait until I'm done, or is there something that you didn't understand?
No, I completely understood.
Okay, I'll come back to it because I'm on a thread that is a difficult thread. So thank you, Joy. I will track you. I know that. So the problem that this leader has is a phenomenon of leadership that I want to name independently of this person. Anyone who is in a position of leadership, and I'm wondering if the principal of your school is still here, Eileen. Because
he actually just had to log off for a family thing.
Okay. So if there's anyone here who is in a position of significant leadership, would you name yourself? No. Okay.
I'm a teacher.
Okay, that's different, because, but maybe you will recognize this. I can speak from my own experience. When you are in a position of leadership, you get a steady stream of useless proposals. I'm saying it in a judgmental way on purpose to accentuate the point. You get tired of it. Sure, you can become better at thinking, responding, integrating, listening for what is the seed of a wonderful idea within it. So I'm not saying that what she's doing just continues as is. That's not the point. The point is that it is part not just of who she is as an individual, it is part of living in societies where the pressure on leaders is unbearable because people are very disempowered consistently across the board. Systems generally don't work, and all the weight of that goes to the small leaders. So the systemic solution is, how do we create sufficient support for the leader so that she doesn't have to face this alone? That completely transforms the conditions. So, for example, anytime there's a meeting in which ideas are going to come up, can somebody translate that icon for me, emoji? Did anybody?
You mean that I put up?
Yes. What does it say?
Wow. Wow. Like mind equal blown.
Okay.
What you just said. And I
okay,
have
thank
talked
you.
to Rachel about this person too, about this situation. So like, I'm like, whoa, wow. Okay.
Thank you, because I looked at it and I thought, is this a yawning person? Is anybody trying to tell me this is boring? Hurry up. I don't know.
I'm glad you asked for clarification.
Okay, so imagine that there is a team in this organization or whatever of people who are leader supporters. And this is not made up of thin air. We are now building leadership support within NGL. It's completely different from anywhere that I've ever been. And one such person comes to every meeting, and that person sits there. And when she says that won't work, because she will continue to say it. She's not going to stop saying it. When she says it, she already knows that person is going to give her a line of reflection and say, Jane, I'm just making her name be Jane. Jane, I am imagining that you very quickly assessed the resources that would be required for implementing this suggestion, and you just don't see a way for this to work. And she says, yes, blah, 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 and keep getting to the point where she settles. And then that person says, Jane, are you okay now for me to engage with this person to understand more fully what the idea is and see whether or not we can integrate any part of it into the existing resources? Done. She doesn't have to change. Somebody has this as their task. Do you see the power of that?
It is seeping in. It's so outside of anything that I ever would have thought of. So I think it needs to seep in.
Let's take a few seconds for you to breathe, because that seeping in that you're experiencing is the shift from present reality to vision.
Yeah.
It is letting go, like serious letting go of the idea that people can become a different person and then the problem will be fixed, whatever the problem is.
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine this at the next board meeting or at any board meeting.
Yeah. Tomorrow, I am doing a webinar, or not webinar, panel discussion, somewhere that I was invited to. I'm going there with quite a bit of stress because the audience, as far as I understand, many of the people who go there are going to be within the business world, believing in the possibility that business can solve the world's problems. And my panel mate has very different ideas from mine. So I'm going in there feeling like, am I going to be able to bring things? So what am I doing? There are 3 people who are registering for this event in order to support me. They're going to be there to catch me so that and I gave them signs, if I had kind of like become slightly less coherent or in flow energetically, that means that something's going on. Anybody who knows me might have noticed that at the beginning, I was wobbly. Did you notice it, Rachel? You know me well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt your stress.
Yes, it was a combination of, all that happened at the beginning with things not working. And then, and I'm just going to say it because I function in vulnerability, having Eileen and the principal here created stress for me because suddenly there is some expectation that some school institution within, I could almost cry, and I'm not going there, but within the crazy environment that now exists in the US, that this fringe thing that we are doing within NGL could actually be helpful for that. Oh my God, that is so much pressure. I didn't say it, but I felt it. And I was wobbly. I finally recovered from it. So tomorrow, I'm actually going to say, this is a hard environment for me to be. And there are people here who I asked to come here to support me. And since the topic is untangling collective leadership, I'm demonstrating collective leadership. These three people who are here with me are changing the face of leadership. You see, that I'm going to do that in a context where I don't know the people. This is my home turf, if you will. You know, sure, there can be people who come here, but fundamentally, I'm surrounded by dozens of people who regularly want to hear what I have to say. I can ultimately relax. That environment, I don't know. So I have support. As much as we can, just normalize the way of functioning that is truly based on collaboration and togetherness. No lone heroes. Yeah.
I feel that, Mickey. I was actually stressed, happy that my principal came and worried about it. I feel different now that he's gone, but I also am like, oh my God, is he going to write this off? Because I'm so fighting to bring in some of these principles. So thank you.
Yeah. And I'm sad that he left, because I would have said this to him too. There some years ago, many years ago, I found myself, doesn't matter the circumstances, I was invited into some situation where I was going to be with super rich people, like really super rich. And I talked with someone I know who grew up in a very rich family. And she helped me completely. She said, there's no way that you can be like them. Not that I wanted to be like them. There's no way that you can do that. They will instantly know where you're coming from. Never mind that. What you have to give them is something they don't have in their environment, which is a level of authenticity that they're not familiar with. So that settled me. Again, building on strength to counter, to support antidoting limitations. So that's what I would bring to that leader, to that board. Say it, take the risk. What's the worst thing that could happen? They will kick you out.
Yeah, I'm so glad I brought this. And I think I just want to say one thing, the thing that's sort of like, as it seeped through me, is that whoever this, I think there actually is a support person who comes to these meetings, or someone that could become the support person. However, unless this person is, there's a risk of the board members who are who have resentment about how things have gone. There's a risk that the board members will see this person as solely there to prop up this fragile leader who can't take feedback and can't hear a no and blah 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 blah, and is and so it seems
okay
like
so here's what I would do.
Yeah,
I would tell this person, you need to have the agreement of this person that something is going to be different. This person needs to see the problem with saying this won't work as often as they do.
Yes.
That needs to happen. Once you have that, then you say to the person, okay, I'm now going to have a meeting with the board without you. You don't want to be there. They're going to say all kinds of things about you that would not be helpful for you to hear. I will hear them. I will support them in understanding what we're trying to do and get their willingness to try it out. If you're there, we won't be able to have that conversation.
Yeah. And that support person, I think what could make the difference is, you said after the support person catches the leader, then the support person goes back to that board member that made the suggestion and says, and reflects and works with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mickey.
Next slide. Okay. So we are now going to look at 5 systems within which we make the behavior anchors. Each of these systems, if we want to align it with vision, there is a particular shift, a key principle shift. So I'm just going to review these principles and then go into the 5 systems. That's what's left. The first system is decision-making. Decision-making, the habitual way of making decisions is either or. The new principle that we want is integration. Everything, if we want to create a visionary decision-making, it needs to anchor integration. That's the principle we're anchoring. Now, this is just the vision that I'm holding. Any organization will have its own vision, and this principle may not apply there. This is just an example of what that would be. In resource flow, the current way that resource flow systems function within organizations is based on incentive. The shift that I'm proposing is to make them function based on willingness. This is entirely revolutionary, that people only do what they actually are willing to do and is within capacity for them. Information flow systems currently function on the principle of control. I can tell you within NGL, where we are trying to not function on the basis of control, we run into a lot of problems because the infrastructure, the technology, because we are an online community, we function all the time on electronic platforms, and they are all geared towards existing ways of functioning. So there's so many controls and things that we need to work around and pass through in order to function in the way that we want to function. Because the principle of information flow is transparency, useful transparency, that brings all information as widely as possible based on need. The next system is feedback flow, and the shift here is from performance to learning. Most feedback systems that exist now are designed to focus on performance. Do this, do that, do this, do that. And you don't actually learn anything. You are afraid it's reward punishment. Actual feedback is for learning, and the learning can happen on multiple levels. It can happen for the person who receives the feedback. It could happen for the person who gives the feedback. It could happen for both of them. It can happen within a system. It can happen anywhere. There's no expectation that just because I give you feedback, it means you have to do something differently. And lastly, the conflict engagement system, the principal shift for me is from consequences to capacity. And it's super simple. Think about it like this. When we are high capacity, we can solve many problems, bigger problems, without running into conflict. When our capacity decreases, smaller and smaller and simpler problems will throw us off. So anchoring an approach to conflict that is focusing on how do we increase capacity across the board within this conflict field, not how do we fix this or that, or not even how do we make people hear each other, just how do we overall increase capacity so that conflict can be held somewhere. Those are the shifts in the systems. And now I'm going to go to questions, and then we'll go into then we'll take a break, and then we'll go into each of the specific systems. Questions, comments? I'm seeing your hand, Camila, and I'm always happy to answer your questions, and I want to take a moment to see if there are other people who haven't spoken, who may not feel as much ease in asking questions, who would be willing to step forward. Oh, Joy, I said I was going to track you from before and then I didn't. Would you say what you wanted to say before?
Oh, thank you, Mickey. I don't feel like I need to say anything, but I appreciate you coming back around to me.
You're sure?
Absolutely.
And you didn't take any impact from it? It wasn't
Not
like,
at-
okay, great.
Oh, not at all.
Thank you. All right, Camila.
Thank you. Miki, when you present this to people, like
I don't usually brutalize them to this degree of then condensing it into so little time.
Right, but let's say you are introducing this topic to somebody. How will you define systems to a person that is new to this? And
a system is a set of agreements.
Just like that, a set of agreements.
That's how I define a system, a human system.
And then you connect that with the development of skills, like a set of agreements that can create incentives for people to develop other type of skills for collaboration.
I will never use incentives.
What will you use?
Nothing. A system is a set of agreements about how we want to do things, so that they.
Yes.
Yeah. Where did you get the idea of incentives?
Because when I think on one way, we are developing human skills to produce other kind of realities that can, human skills. And there's this other part, which is to create systems that can incentivize the use of those skills. That's right.
Yeah, I don't want it to be like that. Incentivize, the whole concept of incentivize is extrinsic motivation. And I want people to do things on the basis of willingness, not on the basis of incentive. So and I don't start from skills. If I do skill building first, that means I'm already trying to push and expand capacity instead of starting with the capacity as it is.
But you can do both things at the same time.
Why not start with just the capacity that there is?
And then the system itself is going to start to increase that capacity.
Yes.
Without the need of developing the skill?
The need to develop the skill will arise organically if the system is done well. So for example, if we look at feedback, it's one of the areas where most human beings have terrible skills for giving feedback. If I start from the skills, people will not be motivated because it's really, really hard skills to learn. If we start from building the relationships, who gives feedback to whom, and people come into trying to give and receive feedback, they will see that they need skills and they will be eager for training. Do you see the difference?
Right. So but it's important for them to know that that's not the only way to give each other feedback, that there's an alternative, because if they don't know, they might have the system, but they are going to keep reproducing the same way. But
they remember, we have system builders. So what will happen is the person will go, you set up this feedback system and I went to give feedback to this person and they shouted at me, I'm never going to do this again. And then you unpack it and then you see what needs to happen.
Okay, but we need to be ready for that.
I think that the trying out and it not working is the best readiness.
Okay, thank you.
Howell?
Yes, Mick, I noticed in the previous slide, there was this transition from A to B, like from this intensive to capacity. And when I looked at the starting points, it resembled me a little bit like, urgency, sort of like trauma response. That, that the default mode is like that it has to be really efficient, either or, narrow, strict. And what you're proposing is to start from more relaxed open space.
Mm-hmm.
To check yourself, for example. And and I just thinking that that often that the organization is geared towards be more urgency because there is danger. There is maybe deep trauma, and we need to urgently, efficiently deal with everything. And I thought, if this is the case, if there is traumatic response, we tend to have narrow possibilities vision.
Yes.
Unless we feel more safe, then we open our possibilities. So I thought, is there in this vision, how to, I don't know, to make everyone to feel more relaxed and safe, and then open the capacity to see there are other options more safely and in a relaxed way. So that would be my question.
Food for thought for me. I don't have an immediate thing to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Mickey?
Yes.
I think the previous person that you were just conversing with, as well as myself, were a little confused about, and I know you have a lot to get through, but if you wanted to make time in the agenda, I think it would be helpful to give like a more detailed, concrete narrative about the skill versus capacity. Like, okay, these 3 people are in an organization, and here's how they go through the steps that you're recommending. Because I think I and the other person were still a little fuzzy on what that would look like in practice.
Maybe as we continue, it will happen. For now, I would like to propose a break and some breakout time, both. Maddie, do you have people in divided into breakouts? So
can you actually transfer host back to me?
What happened? You were host.
Yes, my internet cut out and I dropped off the call.
Yeah.
But I can have those breakout rooms set up in no time.
Okay.
And then just a reminder while I'm getting those set up, if you do not want to be put in a breakout room, if you could put an equal sign next to your name, you can rename yourself. I'll go ahead and drop into the chat instructions around that.
Okay. So what I would like you to do is, as soon as Maddie is done, you'll have half an hour that you can divide as you want. So go into your group and decide within your group, do you want to have break first? Do you want to engage with each other first? Do you want to just have a break? Do you not need a break? All this you can decide in your group. But you have a half an hour total to do either break or engage with each other however you want to. For the engaging with each other, I think just helping each other digest what is being presented here and how challenging it is to orient in this different way. That's your invitation, is to do that digestion with each other, to settle within what is being presented. And then we come back 30 minutes later. So, Maddie, are you ready?
Not quite. There's a lot of people who are choosing not to be in a breakout room, so I'm just making sure that they have that option.
I'm wondering if anybody has any question or comment while Maddie is completing this. Maybe if anybody, yes, Delane.
Thank you. So my clarity, or I want some reflection on my clarity. So you're saying that because we are inundated or raised in a patriarchal trance, the systems that we're involved in are often not visible, or if they are visible, it feels like we can't do anything about it. And what you are proposing is that we make visible the way that we make agreements with each other in order to include everyone's needs and do it with capacity and willingness rather than coercion or whatever the patriarch does.
Those are the systems that I want. But I want to say that it doesn't have to be those systems. What I'm thinking is even an organization that is committed to being hierarchical can do better by spelling out its systems. Even relative to its ideals, they can do better by spelling it out. So for example, around decision-making, in most organizations, the complaints that people have is not that they don't participate in decisions, is that they have no idea who to go to when they need a decision on something. Do you see what I mean? You hear the difference between the two.
Yes, and I think it's a really ingrained thing about a system feeling far distant from me, and not a group of individuals that have agreed to it. I think that huge distance makes it hard for me to fathom, right, that there is an individual that I would go to talk to because the system is kind of invisible. Or
yes,
the person that I'm told to talk to doesn't even have any authority or power within the system. So it's just like this fake thing. So it's heavier stuff than I thought I knew, or that I'm coming to know in a way, like, oh God, how do I, because it seems like there's some confusion about what does an individual do? Like, I prepare myself, I do these things, and then what does a system do, which seems so far away. But I think what you're saying is that the system is comprised of individuals and the agreements can be made or hidden.
The agreements can be made or hidden. There can be explicit or implicit. The agreements can be imposed or collaborative.
Okay. Yes. And you're just asking for the agreement.
So for example,
yes.
I am wanting to create different systems.
Yes.
For example, in most places, when people are hired for a job and start the job, in most places, they will expect to be told what to do and to then do it to the best of their ability in order to keep the job. That is an implicit system of decision-making. Nobody says this to you. It's there in the air of having a job in our current system, in our current overall large system. You recognize that?
Yeah, and you'll get a paycheck if you do it such and such, or whatever. So yes, I do recognize that as a system.
Yes, that doesn't get spelled out.
Not at all.
I think that if it were spelled out, it would be, if all the different things that happen that we accept as normal, if they were all spelled out, they wouldn't be able to survive exactly as they are. They would already start changing a little bit if they're spelled out, because then it's ever slightly less imposed. Thank you for the question. Madi, are you ready?
All ready.
Okay, so we come back 15 after the hour in most places in the world, and in some places it will be 45 after the hour, because there are some places in the world where it's half an hour difference. So see you then.
See you then. And for those of you that have put an equal sign next to your name, you can just ignore the room, the option that comes up.
Welcome back, everyone. Wondering if there's anything that came from the breakout rooms that anybody would like to share or ask about. Did it help to have an opportunity to connect with others? Yeah, good. So if you have questions, comments, raise your hand.
Mickey, this is Anne.
Hi.
Hi, this is, I think, my first live with you. I think I've seen some not live. So I was really interested because it feels like my organization has put in many of these things that I see you talking about, like understanding they're a learning organization and building in some transparency and looking at capacity. So it feels like that was really different from when I first started with the organization a long time ago, where that top-down kind of management strategy created a gap of understanding, and that management was getting lots of information that they couldn't use because we really hadn't connected. And it makes management's job stressful and harder because we're going to them saying, tell me what to do. And that's a very difficult position to be in all the time, always making the decisions, right? And so I've seen them build this capacity. It was almost like the organization had to get honest about what it took to do the work. And they built in multiple levels of support that weren't there when I first started.
Thank you.
So
heartened to hear that.
And you know, it's not perfect. There's still a lot of, you know, situations where there's a need for control still. But I also think it's like when you have that structure, your employees don't feel empowered to speak because they're going to get told that's useless, or they're going to get told, you know, you don't understand, right? And instead creating this environment where they can choose their trainings, choose what the, you know, like there's some choice going on, and then they get exposed to people who are doing the work at a really high level, and they get inspired, and then they can kind of grow themselves within that.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you and welcome. All right, now let's get to see what it might actually look like. Okay, there we are. Okay, so we start with decision making. And the questions, each of the systems to build it, there's specific questions that we ask. The answer to those questions is what creates the action level, behavioral level, specific anchors, agreements, and all of that. So the question is who? And then the question is what? So the who is who initiates the decision-making processes. It takes recognizing that a decision is needed. There are decisions that happened within flow all the time. We're making decisions all the time, everyone. Even the person that works on an assembly line is making decisions all the time. People forget about it. Everyone is making decisions all the time. But somebody recognizes a decision needs to be made, something needs to change here, a new process is needed or whatever. That's one type of thing. Then who participates in those decisions, who provides input, and who finds out? Those are very specific questions. And if you catalog all the decisions that are made within an organization, within a team, within a family, within yourself, if you catalog them, and for each of them you answer these questions, you get a map, which we call the decision-making matrix, where you can see for each decision how it gets to happen. Then the second part of it is, what are the processes that are used to make which decisions? So some decisions may be made by someone who is a manager. Some decisions may be made by a random selection of people that comes together and is facilitated into consensus. Some decisions may be made by using the advice process that was developed by Frederick Laloux. Not all the decisions have to be made in the same way, but these are the questions that make up a decision-making system. Who initiates, who participates, who gives input, which is very different from participating in the decision, and who finds out. Okay. It's very simple and very detailed. And I want to know if that makes things a little more concrete for some of the people that were struggling to have these specific questions. Anyone? Questions, comments on this? I'm seeing Delane nod like, yes, this is clear. Powell, is it clearer to you? Pam?
No, Mickey, I'm sorry to say, it's not clear to me. I was actually just thinking about sending a private message to someone asking if it's clear to them, because I'm like, maybe I'm not paying full attention, or I don't know, but I'm struggling. But oh, I see Camila has her hand up.
Okay, Camila.
Yes, who it's clear for me, but who makes, there's one first decision that somebody, like who makes the decision, or how we make the decision around all those decisions, like who initiates, who make what decision.
This is how the system is built. We're not talking about how the system is built right now. We're talking about what it looks like. Okay. And how the system is built is a big aspect of whether it will end up being collaborative or not. If the system is built top down, it's very unlikely to end up being collaborative. But you can make a collaborative system building and still decide that certain decisions are going to be made by one person. I'll give you an example. Let's say you are trying to make a decision-making system for a hospital. Okay? In the operating room, I hope that the people who put the system together are going to all agree that the surgeon makes the decisions. The surgeon is not going to try to have consensus with the nurses and with the anesthesiologists, however you pronounce that word, or all the other people that are in the operating room. The surgeon will make the decisions because that is their expertise. Later, if it's a collaborative system, there's going to be a debrief and feedback, and everybody says whatever they're going to say so that the next surgery is better. But during the surgery, you want unilateral decision-making. Do you concur with me?
Yes.
So, but you can reach that decision collaboratively. So you can make a collaborative system building where you make unilateral decisions within it, but it's going to be very unlikely that somebody will unilaterally decide that decisions are made collaboratively. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, like right now we are not talking about how we build the system, but how.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
What the elements of the system are, just to give people a sense of what it means to function at the level of specific and concrete behavior and how far that can go in completely restructuring things. Yeah.
Mickey, I think I understand. Maybe you were maybe you framed it and I missed that part. Because now when you just framed it again, I think I get it. So that slide about decisions, about decision making, was to help us see all the places where we could put in place agreements about behaviors to anchor the vision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So all of those pieces, including the decision making, like these are all places that have the potential to have to be a place where the agreement is made.
Mm-hmm.
That is the anchoring. Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Fox, do you have access to a decision-making matrix example that we can just show people?
Not easily to hand. I can try and find one and get back to you.
No. I don't want to look for one right now. I was thinking if I could show people. If not, we can send it in the follow-up email. So never mind. Thank you, Fox. Natalie? Can't hear you. Earl?
Hi, Mickey. Yeah, thanks for providing that example. I had a question. It sounds a little bit like a RACI, RACI, and I'm curious how you would compare it.
I don't know RACI, so I can't compare.
Okay, so that's it's where like for like a project that there's the group that's responsible for implementing. There's the individual who's accountable. That's the A. There are the people who are consulted who can like veto. And then there are people who are informed, they're kept in the loop, but they wouldn't.
Okay, I know about this. I cannot remember. It's similar, and there are differences because the word accountable isn't really about decision making. It's about having a responsibility to carry something out. So it's a different element, and then. I have a whole lot of concerns about the term accountability, which is a whole conversation I don't want to get into because I don't believe there's accountability that isn't punitive. How to do accountability with love is very difficult. So anyway, that's a long conversation that I'm not equipped to have, even if we had the space, because I'm not familiar enough with that system to be able to do the comparison.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you for asking.
Found it.
Found it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you share screen for a moment and show it?
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter what it is about.
Okay. Sure. I made it all pretty and stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Can you see it now?
No, it just says Fox has started screen sharing. Okay, there it is. Okay, so you can see that, oh, this is a real one.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see that in terms of maintaining the agenda, and you can also see that not everybody filled it out, right? So at the level of maintaining the agenda, Alper wants to know what's going on. Fox has taken responsibility for noticing when something needs to happen, and Yella finds out apparently no one gives input. Poor Fox needs to do it all on his own. In terms of holding the VM, never mind what that is, we have 2 ones, which sometimes can be a challenge. If 2 people are 1, they can initiate things or they need to coordinate an extra work, but whatever. And then Yella gives them input. Can you scroll it to see a place where there may be a little more variety? Okay, go to just a little up. There was 1, 2, and 3. Further up, a little further up. I don't know where that was. Okay, 1, no. You're moving too fast. Anyway, I hope that this was enough for people to see something, because I want to go now to the next systems. Thank you. If this helped anyone, great. But fundamentally, it means if I am a 1 and I want to make a decision in some area, I will need to find the 2s, connect with them so we can make the decision together, ask input from the 3s, and then inform the 4s. That's how simple it is. And if you have it, and if everyone decides for themselves where they want to be in relation to every type of decision, then it's the most collaborative that it could be. Even if people do not participate in decisions, not everyone has to participate in all decisions. That's a mythology that cannot function. Yes, Rachel.
Where did this decision-making matrix come from?
Some group that Fox is part of mapped out all the different needs, things that they need to decide, and they decided how to do them.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Next is going to be the resource flow. Now, if you're wondering, what are resources? A lot of people think that resources are just money. Nope, everything can be a resource. There is human energy and capacity is a resource. Materials and infrastructure is a resource. Money is a resource. Relationships are a resource. Knowledge is a resource. Experience is a resource. So many things are resources. And then the resources need to move around. And how do they move around? The principle that we use within NGL about how resources move around is the simplest and most radical one, which is that resources move from where they exist to where they're needed, based on willingness, capacity, and purpose, essentially. It's simple, radical, and once you embrace it, it's hard to grasp why anyone would do it differently. I confess to being super biased, but that is not necessarily the only principle. Whatever the principle is, you need to really know who is moving the resources, who has access to resources, and how the whole thing is going to flow around. That's what a resource flow system is. And we also have a resource flow matrix, which is similar or different from the decision-making because it doesn't address the same questions. And the resource flow matrix that we have developed is for human energy and capacity, not for all types of resources. That's it. It's the biggest system there is because everything falls within it. And I don't have more to say about it, and I'm happy to answer questions if people have them. Any questions specific to resource flow? That's it. I lost you all completely. No? You're still hanging in? All right. Okay. And I'm seeing that my internet is having like little blips. I don't really know what to do about that.
Mickey?
Hopefully it will stop soon. It's usually, yeah.
Are you willing to give an example of how a decision on resource flow can look like?
I didn't hear all the words. How, what resource flow? Just say it again.
Like how a decision in the resource flow system can look like. Like, for example, because I get the principle that you are using, for example, in NGO.
It can look like anything. It can look like we have, we are part of a team. We meet once a week. We have a standing agenda. All this is part of resource flow. That's just one example. Or it can be about how we organize who cooks and who washes dishes and when does it happen and how do we assess capacity about it and all of that. It can be really, really, really anything.
I see. Thank you.
Let me see if I can think of a more. So I will give you an example about dishes, for example. Right now, here in our house, there are only 3 people, which is very low capacity for us. We like to be 4 or more. And in the area of dishwashing, it's particularly challenging because one of us has basically 2 of us have issues, skin issues with our hands. And it's not humanly reasonable that one person would do all the dishes. So basically the system that we have right now is that the person who doesn't have issues is the first person who washes dishes. If that person is outside willingness or capacity, they ask the second person. And if that person is outside willingness and capacity, they ask the third person. That's a foolproof system. You see what I mean? For dishwashing, we have a tiny dishwashing system in this way. Does that help, Camila? Can't hear you. Don't know if you're saying anything.
Yes. Thank you. And you build that based on needs, on what of each person's
Needs, capacity, willingness, resources. Totally.
Yeah, and purpose. Yes. Thank you.
All of that. Dylan?
Yes, I might have missed something. So basically you have a decision-making matrix which asks who is involved in these decisions and what are the process for deciding.
That's one way of organizing it. You don't have to organize it like this.
Okay. So then, right, it's not, I understand you're just offering possibilities. And then with the resource, I guess I was thinking that you brought the decision-making matrix to the resource flow issues, so to speak. Who does the dishes or where does the money go? But you're not saying that. You're saying you would make
there is a resource flow matrix, and it's not exactly the same as a decision-making matrix. So it's because it manages resources and not decisions, it will look different.
Including categories of willingness, capacity, needs, that kind of thing. I'm just curious. Let me see. If I'm not finding one, but the categories would be, for example, you orient actively to this particular task, or you're willing to receive requests. So for example, in all the categories of resource flow that have to do with the things that are on the material practical plane, in part because of liberation and in part because I have many non-redundant capacities of other areas, I'm a 3 on most of them, which means I'm willing to receive requests. I'm not orienting to doing them myself. And that's a really intense practice to hold. And people are not actually making enough requests of me. And then there's one area that I do completely,
which is the folding of laundry. I do the folding of laundry because somehow it sits within me in the place of love, because when I'm folding laundry, I know whose laundry I'm folding, and it feels like loving them. So that is something that I do. You see, it's just like, but you can't like reproduce it in some other context and say, that's just how you do this. It is all based on context and who the people are and what works and what doesn't work. And when you have non-redundant capacities, you want to try to maintain as much spaciousness as possible for people in their areas of non-redundant capacities. So it's all of these things. It's a kind of like it's a jigsaw puzzle, but it has nothing to do with fairness.
Right. It sounds like a very gently held, very consciously aware of what people have, what's theirs to do and only theirs to do, and then what might be shared among many people to do, who can do, and really taking a closer look at what
Exactly.
people have and what willingness. Thank you.
Exactly. And then you bring tons of consciousness to it, and also liberation. I used to have 2s and 3s in multiple areas, and we actually shifted me out of it as part of liberation. Yeah. And conversely, as part of liberation, we have shifted one person into taking on things to transform habitual patterns. So it's a very, when you have a high trust environment, you can play with everything. Yeah, but it's not always there, the high trust. All right. I'm seeing what the time is, and I know we have 3 more systems. So I want to say that I'm very happy to keep going for a few more minutes to complete the whole sequence if people are up for it. And if anybody needs to leave, then just feel free to leave when you need to. All right. Next is information flow. And what the information is about mostly is needs, impacts, and resources to help with everything that is needed everywhere. And who? It is such a simple and radical principle that everyone has direct access to the information they need. Not more and not less, because you can also be inundated with information way beyond what you need, and then information stops being meaningful. So that it's not like just here's all the information. It doesn't mean you have good access to the information. And we definitely run into this challenge within NGL, where people go, there's so much, I don't know where to find anything. Dylan, I'm looking at you on my screen. You know what I'm talking about, right? So we try to function as transparently as possible without overwhelming people. And that is not always simple, but this is the puzzle that needs to be addressed at the level of information flow. And my general belief is that for as long as the technology infrastructures are what we have now, info flow systems will not break open into radical politics. At some point, if we're going to be serious about what we're doing, we will probably need to create our own info flow, our own technological infrastructure, but that's somewhere in the future, probably after I'm no longer here. So that's
Vicki, I'm sorry, you broke up. So the technology as of now probably will not break into what?
Radical possibilities within the field of information flow. That ultimately we're limited by the material infrastructure of everything that we use. So for example, resource flow, we're trying to move towards gift economy. We are limited because the material infrastructure of the world is based on exchange. We can only go so much towards gifting. So this is similar here. So I'll come back and see if there are any questions about info flow for anyone.
Nikki?
Yes?
Does, like, I have a question, like all these systems, like we create these systems all based on the decision-making system we have? Like that's the one who regulates the other ones?
It's a bit more complex than this. That it's definitely the case that if you don't change the decision-making processes, you cannot change everything else. And it's also not the only thing necessary. So it's not accurate to say that it regulates everything. There are different challenges with the different systems. There are a million challenges. We could be here for weeks without interruption and not complete. There's so much content. So I don't even know exactly what to say, because I think getting into where you're going will just create more confusion as we're trying to finish it, as I'm thinking that maybe Pam is having like a little bit of a handle and thinking, maybe I got something. So I would rather leave out additional layers of complexity.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, two more. The next one is the feedback flow. And it's a super interesting system. There's a lot to learn about feedback flow. And essentially, I would say this: when there is a solid feedback flow system, sooner or later, it will change everything around it. And maybe unintentionally, because of that, feedback flow systems at the moment in the world are completely clogged and useless. So, for example, we have very little feedback on the impact of our actions on people far from us. We have very little feedback on things except how much things cost, for example. So much of the information that would potentially invite different types of behavior from people is not available. In relationships, we don't tell each other how we are impacted. We just absorb the impact and then either erupt or move away. So feedback doesn't actually flow. It either is clogged or it turns into conflict. So establishing a really solid feedback flow system is a big deal. And I can tell you, within NGL, we do not have a functional feedback flow system. And that's part, I think, of why certain things are moving slower than I would love for them to move. So I think that given that you will receive this, I want to see what to focus on. So, for example, let's say that Dylan and I work on a project together. Ideally, we would establish a feedback agreements in relation to that project. What are the criteria for feedback? What is it that we actually want to learn as we're doing this project? Are we going to focus on purpose feedback, values feedback, or relationship feedback? When we don't do purpose and values feedback, most of the feedback that does move around is only at the level of relationship. That's one of the things that we are trying to build into NGL, is to create more capacity in all of us to give feedback based on purpose. So I think that I want to leave it at that, given the time. It's near midnight where I am. So whatever else there is about feedback, I will say it based on questions, if anybody has specific questions about feedback.
I have a clarification.
Mhm.
Mickey, when it says it's consciously chosen, not informal, by that it means, is it related to purpose or values?
No, it's related to having ritualized times for doing feedback. Because if you leave it to just informally giving each other feedback, the pervasive conflict aversion that exists within our current ways of operating will get the better of us, and we just won't do it. So for example, here in our pod, where we live in a very intensive way, we have impact sharing every day at dinner. That's a very intensive practice. It also means that our learning is we learn very fast and adapt and change and integrate new things and shift how we do things all the time. If we did it only once a week, then we would have less intimacy, also less challenge. We would not learn as quickly. Many of the impacts will be forgotten. Even doing it every day, we forget things. By the time it's dinner, I don't remember what happened. Did anything, whatever. So only certain things come up. But the way we deal with it, it constantly leads to more learning and more intimacy. And is part of what makes it possible for us to function at the level of resource flow with ease and trust and simplicity that I've never had anywhere else in my life, except with someone that you know, Eileen, my sister in Bal. We functioned in that way, like total ease and flow about making things happen. Yeah.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Steve?
I love when you share the specific examples, Mickey. It helps me so much to grasp it, because the PowerPoint sometimes leaves me scratching my head a little bit. And as far as feedback, can you give a specific example of how to give feedback that comes off not as a performance review, but as a request for needs or in a loving feedback?
I would say the key is the orientation within me when I give the feedback, because I can do all the components of it and still be in a certain, like, you have to do this. The key is to recognize that any feedback that I give you is based on my perspective of what happened, And your choice to do something this way or that way is based on your perspective of what happened. And if we just accept my perspective, then we are not in a discovery learning process. So essentially, the investigation process is like, let's say you did something that had an impact on me. I bring the impact to you, and then we investigate what is going on. What is the nature of the impact? Why did it result in an impact? Is there a story or a narrative that I put on it that has nothing to do with you and what you did? Are there reasons for you to have done what you did that I couldn't have foreseen? And now that I know them, it's like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And still, we might need to make a different agreement because whatever you did would not be visible or clear or make sense to other people, not just to me. So it's always a discovery process. That's the key. Not like, you did this, I don't like it, this is my need, now you do this instead.
And you didn't perform up to my standards, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
All right. And last and definitely not least is conflict. So I sometimes like to play with the systems and make analogies, and I do terrible mixing metaphors, which I know the English language doesn't like, but I love them. So I think of the decision-making as the nervous system, the resource flow as the metabolism, info flow as the circulation system, the blood and the lymph. Feedback flow we get out of the body. Feedback flow is the composting system. And conflict is the shit. What I mean is it's the thing that doesn't get digested and processed by any of the other systems. Shows up as shit.
Are we on the right slide? It seems like we're on a.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And the function of a conflict engagement system is to turn shit into compost. That's the fundamental function, because essentially what exists within a conflict is loss of trust and hidden information. So what we need to do is to see if we can attend to the loss of trust and to see if we can find the feedback that is within the conflict. That's the purpose of the system. And the agreements are all the anchoring that we do is about what to do when a conflict arises. It is amazing how little there is in most places in support of dealing with conflict. So in terms of attending to loss of trust, there's the question of what can we do to increase capacity? Because if we increase capacity, trust will increase with it. And if the trust is not restored, not all conflicts will be resolved. So what do we do if trust is not restored so that we can keep functioning, so that we don't get stuck in the conflict, and so that we still have the possibility of getting the feedback, even if the trust is not restored? That is all the things that we need to codify in specific agreements of who does what, how, when. And the first thing is, where do I go when there's a conflict? Who do I go to so I don't need to face it alone? That is the end. I learned a lot today. I learned that this is impossible to do in 3 hours. We need to break it down into more things. Do you all agree with me? Yes, everyone agrees. Okay, so there's feedback for you. The feedback came along the way, and it's clear feedback. So not that I would do this again anyway. I tend to not do things again. However, I don't know if there's still people who are doing echo calls, which is there are people within NGL that take these NGL intros that I do and then do them in other contexts. I'm going to suggest that they don't do it because I don't think that it will work. It's really cool to just be able to face a group of people and say in a super relaxed way, I don't think this one worked. And so I would like it to hear from a few people. Despite knowing that it didn't work, I imagine that some things did work and you got some things from it. So I would like to hear some of those, whatever you took from being here, what is going to stay with you. Karimar.
Hi, I want to share that a part of me feels a little bit embarrassed because everything I've been taking from you since Friday, I've been like my focus, my concentration is in what's happening with my partner, and everything since Friday evening that I've been learning with you, I take it to my relationship with my partner, and it's serving me a lot and understanding and just having more ideas on how to continue and restore togetherness. So there is a little bit of embarrassment because everything here is for organizational, or that's what I have experienced, or organizational or big systems. So yeah, there is that there.
Thank you.
And I want to say that the phrase you said of building systems so that we can we cannot build solutions that require people to change in order to have the solutions. I like this phrase, and at the same time there was a lot of curiosity of how can I do that, like how can I was having difficulties grasping this, and Pan gave me an idea of what about if I say it as we cannot build solutions that require people to change willingness and capacity in order to have the solution. And I guess when I think about that, it gives me more to work on and more understanding. And I really learned a lot, and I take it to my couple situation right now. Thank you.
Thank you. What else? Any specifics that are staying with anyone that you can name? Eileen, I'm curious if for the purpose for which you came, if you see that this might help you.
Definitely. And I'm loving seeing the evolution of the description of this. I remember transcribing the copy company stuff for you, and a lot of these ideas were in there. Yes, so as a staff, they collaboratively identified a vision and mission statement, and I'm really clear then about next steps that need to happen in order to bring that to life in terms of identifying the values and the behavioral anchors, and especially the conflict resolution system. So I got what I needed, definitely, and would love to go deeper. Thank you.
I just would like to propose that you change from calling it conflict resolution to calling it conflict engagement. And the reason is that if you call it conflict resolution and there's a conflict that's not resolved, you failed.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Yeah.
Noor.
Hi, Mickey. Okay, hold on, my video is showing up. All right. One of my pearls was when you said that behavioral anchoring is most useful around limitations and obstacles. That was really helpful. Yeah, both the internal limitations, external obstacles. And I love this ritualization of feedback. And even the last thing you said on conflict engagement, I never kind of understood why you used that. Super helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn?
This is how I wrote it down. If we try skill building first, it's trying to force capacity. If we start first with capacity, the need to develop the skill will arrive organically.
Yeah. Yeah, if people don't have a why, they're less motivated to learn anything. Think schools. The why is entirely absent from schools. It's so tragic that I don't even know how to begin to think about it. Yeah. Michael.
When we make agreements aspirational or intentional versus within capacity, we are at war with ourselves.
Thank you. Joachim?
Yeah. So this thing that it didn't work to go through all this, well, it works for me because I love the way of learning that these things just go whoosh over my head and I get a whole lot out of it. So it works for me.
I'm sure that it worked for some. As a whole, that experience of taking a group on a journey that starts and ends, I'm quite confident that that didn't happen here in a way that sufficiently grounded it. That's just my sense. I'm okay with it. I'm not like upset or anything. I just am noting that is so.
Sure. And my feedback to you is that I'm celebrating because it really worked for me. And then the second thing is that this thing about agreements and the great detail you went into explaining how agreements that are not that are not within capacity is not what we're looking for. And then how to work creatively with how to get there. That was really, really helpful.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and then also I got a question. That is, so if this is like some kind of very quick overview of something, of a system that is, you can imagine like what it looks like when it's in place and everyone has learned it, everyone knows the principles and all that. How do you start? That's the question. How do you start doing something like this when no one is the expert on this at all? Yeah.
I'm not going to answer your question right now, but I just realized that I completely forgot to say that there is a 6-week course. It just happened, literally happened coincidentally that this was scheduled 9 days before a 6-week course starts that is covering the entire vision mobilization framework that people can sign up for. And I'm sure if Fox is still here, Fox, could you put the link in the chat for the VM course?
Yeah.
Thank you. Poof, what a relief that I remembered. Because if you're interested, if you feel the sense that there's something here, then that course will give you the information in bite sizes, much more digestible than what I did here today. And Pam, no?
I mean, it's not a takeaway exactly. I just, for so many of the slides of the systems, I was thinking to myself, the majority of people are so far from having the capacity to be able to put these steps into place.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in a little bit of mourning the gap and also noticing that you talked about building capacity quite a bit, and I want more information about how one builds capacity. Even though I have heard that from you actually just a few months ago, there was one that you spent some time on that.
In the summer, we're doing a course on capacity. Just all the entire course is in the capacity lens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Through NGL or through NVC Academy?
NVC Academy.
I will look for it.
Yeah, it's not yet posted, but I think any day it will be.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, was there anything else I wanted to say? Yes. I wanted to remind people that, I don't know, Madi, do you happen to have the links for where people can contribute? Because I always like to invite people to contribute, to consider contributing more. to support the craziness of what we're doing, trying to actually spell out what the world could look like in detail, not in like, oh, friendship, love, but in detail what it could look like. And everything that we do is on a gift economy basis, 100%. There are 30-something of us who are completely within the gift economy, receiving all or part of our livelihood through this, through money that comes to NGL freely. And it would be super helpful if those of you who have the capacity take one of those links and give more money, even if you gave money before. This isn't about market value or anything like this. It's about whether you're motivated to support this experiment and have the capacity to do it. So only what is within willingness and capacity, no overstretching, no resentment. All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Until the next crazy experiment happens. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mickey.
Thanks,
Bye. Thank you, Mickey.
Mickey and team. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Mickey and team.
Adios. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Bye.
engaging.